Most people believe the system is external. Governments, money, culture, algorithms, power structures. But the most effective system has never lived outside human beings. It lives inside the mind, quietly, invisibly, reliably. Ancient Gnostics understood this in a way that still unsettles modern psychology. They weren't talking about prisons made of walls. They were describing prisons made of perception, a reality maintained not by force, but by identification. The moment the mind mistakes its thoughts for truth, the system no longer needs guards. This is why some minds never leave. They work hard, they suffer, they search, they rebel, but nothing changes. The scenery shifts, yet the same emotional loops repeat. The same fears return. The same reactions fire. The system adapts because it doesn't exist in the world. It exists in the way the mind relates to itself. Gnostic psychology described three fundamental states of consciousness, not types of people, not hierarchies, states, ways the mind experiences reality. One of these states is completely enclosed. It cannot escape because it doesn't know it is inside anything at all. Another senses there is more, but cannot stabilize awareness long enough to exit the loop. And the third does something subtle that changes everything. It notices, not thinks, not believes, not fights. It notices. The moment noticing appears, the system falters. Reaction slows. Identification weakens. Control loses its grip. Nothing dramatic happens. No awakening fireworks. No collapse of reality. Just a quiet shift where the mind stops being fused with what passes through it. This video is not spiritual. It is not religious. And it is not motivational. It is observational. We are not talking about escaping society. We are talking about escaping automatic perception. About why some minds remain trapped even while searching for freedom, and why others quietly step outside without anyone noticing. If you're looking for comfort, this isn't it. If you're looking for superiority, this isn't that either. But if you want to understand why some minds never leave the system, and what actually separates awareness from captivity, stay. If this perspective resonates, stay with the channel. Quiet power isn't built by believing new ideas. It's built by seeing how the mind works when no one is watching. The first state described in Gnostic psychology is not evil, ignorant, or inferior. It is simply unconscious. The mind in this state is fully identified with thought, emotion, and sensation. There is no separation between experience and awareness. Whatever arises is believed. Whatever is felt becomes truth. This is the most stable form of captivity because it feels like reality itself. This mind does not experience itself as trapped. It experiences itself as normal. The system does not need to control this mind because it already controls itself. Every reaction reinforces the loop. Fear confirms danger. Desire confirms lack. Comparison confirms inadequacy. Thought generates emotion. Emotion validates thought. And the cycle repeats without interruption. From inside, this feels like life. From outside, it is a closed circuit. Gnostics called this state hylic, meaning bound to matter. Psychologically, it means bound to immediacy. The mind cannot step back from what it experiences. It cannot observe anger without becoming angry. It cannot notice fear without obeying it. There is no gap, no pause, no witnessing position. This is the mind that believes the system is external. It blames structures, people, circumstances, and history for its condition. It searches for freedom through changing outcomes while remaining internally unchanged. When it succeeds, it feels temporary relief. When it fails, it feels victimized. Both states reinforce identification. Both keep the mind inside the same perceptual frame. The system thrives here because predictability thrives here. Advertising works. Outrage spreads. Authority persuades. Fear mobilizes. Hope pacifies. Every lever functions because the mind responds automatically. Reaction is not chosen. It is triggered. The mind believes it is deciding, but it is responding to stimuli conditioned over time. This is not stupidity. It is conditioning. The Hylic mind can be intelligent, educated, creative, and emotionally expressive. None of that creates awareness. Awareness is not information. It is not insight. It is not self-improvement. Awareness is the capacity to observe without immediate identification. In this first state, that capacity is dormant. Because awareness is dormant, suffering feels personal and absolute. Every setback confirms identity. Every insult defines worth. Every loss threatens survival. The nervous system remains activated because the mind believes it is constantly under threat. This chronic activation becomes normal. Calm feels unfamiliar. Silence feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels like emptiness. The system does not need to apply pressure. The mind applies it internally. This is why escape is impossible from this state. Escape requires noticing the mechanism. But noticing requires a separation between awareness and thought. In this state, no such separation exists. Thought is reality. Emotion is truth. Reaction is identity. Gnostics were precise here. They did not say this mind was punished. They said it was asleep. Sleep does not end by force. It ends by waking. But waking cannot be demanded from within sleep. This is the paradox. The Hylic mind often seeks freedom the hardest. It joins movements. It adopts ideologies. It fights systems. It demands change. But all of this activity occurs inside the same unconscious structure. The enemy is always outside. The solution is always external. The internal loop remains untouched. Even suffering does not wake this mind. It adapts suffering into narrative. Pain becomes identity. Struggle becomes meaning. The system uses even rebellion as fuel, because rebellion without awareness still reacts to the same stimuli. This is why some minds never leave. Not because they are incapable, but because nothing interrupts the loop. No gap appears. No observation emerges. The mind never turns inward in the way required. It remains fused with experience. The system does not fear this mind. It depends on it. This mind reproduces the system through behavior, belief, and reaction. It teaches it to others unconsciously. It enforces norms without being asked. It polices deviation through ridicule or fear. It becomes an extension of control without realizing it. And yet, from the inside, this mind believes it is free. This belief is sincere. Freedom is imagined as comfort, security, recognition, or success. When these are achieved, freedom is felt temporarily. When they disappear, freedom is sought again. The cycle never resolves because the definition of freedom is external. Gnostic psychology was radical because it moved the problem inward. It said the world mirrors the state of consciousness. A sleeping mind experiences a mechanical world. An observing mind experiences choice. The Hylic mind cannot hear this, not because it disagrees, but because the statement bypasses its framework. It seeks answers that reinforce identity, not dissolve it. This is why awareness cannot be taught here. It can only be hinted at. Language fails. Concepts fail. The mind translates everything into familiar patterns. Even awakening becomes an idea. Even liberation becomes a goal. Both are absorbed into the system. Quiet power does not confront this mind. It does not argue. It does not persuade. It understands that force reinforces identification. Silence is more disruptive than opposition. The first crack in this state does not come from insight. It comes from exhaustion, from a moment where reaction no longer satisfies, where success feels empty, where suffering loses meaning, where the narrative fails to stabilize emotion. This moment is rare. When it occurs, something subtle happens. The mind hesitates. A pause appears. Noticing flickers. For the first time, experience is seen rather than believed. This flicker does not last. It fades quickly, but it leaves a trace. That trace is the beginning of movement. Most minds never experience this. They remain inside reaction until the end. Not tragically, not dramatically, simply automatically. The system holds because the mind never questions the lens through which it sees. This chapter is not a condemnation. It is a description. Understanding it is not meant to create separation from others. It is meant to create accuracy. The system does not trap minds. Minds trap themselves by never observing. In the next chapter, we will explore the second state. The mind that senses the system, questions it, resists it, yet cannot leave. This is the most conflicted state, the most psychologically intense, and the most unstable. The second state described in Gnostic psychology is the most restless, conflicted, and psychologically intense. This mind is no longer fully asleep, but it is not awake either. It senses that something is wrong with reality as it appears. It questions authority, norms, and inherited beliefs. It feels friction with the system, and yet it cannot escape. This is the divided mind. Gnostics called this state psychic. Psychologically, it is the mind that has glimpsed awareness but cannot stabilize it. It oscillates between identification and observation, between reaction and insight. One moment, it sees the pattern clearly. The next, it is pulled back into it. This back and forth creates inner tension that feels like growth, but often becomes exhaustion. This mind knows the system exists. It senses manipulation. It recognizes conditioning. It understands that much of reality is constructed. But understanding does not equal freedom. Insight does not dissolve identification. The mind can name the trap while still living inside it. This is why this state feels uniquely frustrating. The psychic mind is often drawn to ideas, philosophies, spirituality, psychology, and self-development. It consumes frameworks that promise escape. It studies awareness conceptually. It talks about consciousness. It explains the system fluently. But explanation becomes another layer of identity. Knowledge replaces observation. This is where the system adapts. Instead of controlling behavior directly, it now controls through meaning. Beliefs become refined. Narratives become complex. The mind feels special for seeing what others don't. This sense of distinction becomes a subtle prison. Identity shifts from normal to aware, but identification remains intact. The psychic mind often believes it is free because it can articulate the trap. But articulation is not separation. Emotionally, this state is volatile. Periods of clarity alternate with periods of collapse. The mind may feel empowered one day and helpless the next. It may withdraw from society, then re-engage intensely. It may reject norms, then crave validation. The nervous system swings because awareness is unstable. This instability creates suffering that feels meaningful. Unlike the first state, suffering here feels purposeful. It feels like growth. The mind believes it is becoming something. Struggle becomes proof of depth. Confusion becomes evidence of complexity. The system benefits from this. A mind that struggles endlessly without stabilizing awareness expends enormous energy without leaving the structure. It resists externally while remaining internally reactive. It criticizes power while reproducing its dynamics emotionally. Anger replaces fear. Cynicism replaces hope. But reaction remains reaction. The psychic mind is often angry at the world for not matching its insight. It feels alienated, misunderstood, superior and inferior at the same time. This tension fuels identity. It keeps the mind engaged. Calm would threaten this structure. This is why stillness feels dangerous here. When the psychic mind slows down, it risks losing its narrative. Without constant processing, analysis, and meaning-making, it feels empty. The identity it built around questioning begins to dissolve. The mind quickly fills the space with new content. Another book, another theory, another explanation. The system does not care what you believe. It cares how you relate to thought. As long as thought is taken personally, as long as emotion dictates reality, control persists. The psychic mind has not yet seen this fully. It believes the content matters more than the relationship. Gnostics warn that this state is the most seductive. It feels like progress. It feels like awakening. But it can last a lifetime without resolution. Many never move beyond it because the tension itself becomes addictive. Being almost free feels better than being asleep. This is why escape rarely happens here. The psychic mind seeks confirmation. It wants signs that it is on the right path. It looks for validation through agreement or opposition. It measures itself against others. Comparison returns. Identity reasserts itself. Quiet power feels elusive in this state because the mind is still trying to become something. It has not yet learned how to stop. Effort dominates. Willpower replaces observation. Control replaces surrender. The shift out of this state does not come from more knowledge. It comes from relinquishing the need to position oneself. At some point, the psychic mind grows tired. Not intellectually, but emotionally. The constant seeking loses momentum. Insight loses novelty. The mind realizes that no new framework will complete the process. This realization is subtle and often resisted. When it is accepted, something changes. The mind stops trying to escape the system conceptually and begins observing itself directly. Not its beliefs, not its conclusions, but its reactions, its impulses, its identification. The observer strengthens quietly. This is not dramatic. It often feels anticlimactic. The psychic mind expects awakening to feel powerful. Instead, it feels ordinary. Calm replaces urgency. Silence replaces analysis. This calm can initially feel like loss. The identity built around searching begins to dissolve. Many turn back at this point, those who don't discover something essential. Awareness does not need effort. It was never absent. It was simply obscured by constant engagement with thought. The system weakens when engagement weakens. The psychic mind becomes capable of stepping aside rather than reacting. Emotion still arises, but it no longer dictates action. Thought still appears, but it no longer defines identity. The loop loosens. This is the threshold. Few cross it. In the next chapter, we will explore the third state. The mind that no longer lives inside the system because it no longer confuses awareness with what passes through it. This state is not elevated. It is not special. It is simply clear. The third state described in Gnostic psychology is not traumatic, mystical, or exalted. It is quiet, ordinary, almost invisible. This is why it is so often misunderstood. The mind in this state does not announce itself. It does not seek recognition. It does not feel compelled to convince others. It simply operates from a different relationship to experience. Gnostics called this state pneumatic. Psychologically, it is the observing mind. This mind is no longer fused with thought. It does not mistake emotion for instruction. It does not confuse mental activity with identity. Thoughts arise, emotions pass, sensations fluctuate, but awareness remains stable. The system loses its leverage because leverage depends on identification. Nothing is suppressed here. Anger still appears. Fear still surfaces. Desire still moves through the body. But none of these experiences are obeyed automatically. They are seen. And what is seen clearly loses its authority. This is the crucial difference. The observing mind does not escape the world. It escapes compulsion. It participates without being possessed. It responds rather than reacts. This response is not calculated. It emerges naturally when awareness is present. The system relies on speed. It requires immediate reaction. Outrage must fire quickly. Fear must grip instantly. Desire must pull without delay. The observing mind introduces pause. And pause disrupts control more effectively than resistance ever could. This pause is not hesitation. It is space. In that space, choice becomes possible. The observing mind does not define itself against the system. It does not fight structures or identities. Fighting requires identification. Instead, it sees patterns and moves accordingly. Sometimes it engages. Sometimes it withdraws. Sometimes it remains silent. There is no fixed strategy because there is no fixed identity to defend. This makes the observing mind unpredictable. Unpredictability is dangerous to systems built on conditioning. The system cannot easily manipulate what does not respond consistently. Rewards lose power. Threats lose urgency. Social pressure weakens. This is why the observing mind appears calm. Calm is not indifference. It is alignment. The nervous system is no longer hijacked by every stimulus. Energy is conserved. Attention is directed rather than captured. This calm can be unsettling to others. People accustomed to emotional reciprocity may feel ignored. Those who rely on reaction may feel exposed. The observing mind reflects without intention. It mirrors dynamics simply by not participating in them. This often leads to projection. Others may label this mind cold, detached, arrogant, or passive. These labels are attempts to restore familiar patterns. The observing mind does not correct them. Correction would require engagement. This is quiet power. It does not assert itself. It does not withdraw defensively. It remains present without explanation. Presence alone alters dynamics. Gnostics believed this state represented freedom, but not in the sense of escape from the world. It was freedom from unconscious participation. The world remained the same. The relationship to it changed. This is important. The observing mind still works, pays, interacts, and lives within structures. But it is no longer defined by them. Identity is not borrowed from roles. Worth is not derived from outcomes. Meaning is not outsourced. This internal autonomy cannot be taken. Even loss does not collapse this mind. Pain is felt fully, but it does not become narrative. Failure is experienced, but it does not become identity. The observing mind grieves without drowning. This is not emotional numbness. It is emotional clarity. The observing mind does not seek to escape reality because it is no longer at war with it. Reality is experienced as process, not threat. Change is expected. Uncertainty is tolerated. Control is unnecessary. This tolerance is rare. Most minds cling to certainty because certainty stabilizes identity. The observing mind has no need for rigid identity. It functions without psychological armor. This vulnerability is strength because nothing needs to be protected. The system has no entry point here. It cannot manipulate through fear because fear is observed. It cannot seduce through desire because desire is seen. It cannot shame because identity is not attached to approval. The levers still exist, but they no longer connect. This does not make life easier. It makes it cleaner. Choices become simpler. Relationships clarify. Dynamics either align or dissolve. There is less drama, but also less confusion. The observing mind accepts endings without needing villains. It allows truth to unfold without interference. This is why few reach this state. Not because it is difficult, but because it offers no emotional reward. There is no constant stimulation, no sense of being special, no identity reinforcement. The ego finds little nourishment here. What remains is presence. Presence is subtle. It does not excite. It steadies. Those who encounter this state often mistake it for emptiness at first. The absence of inner noise feels unfamiliar. Without constant mental engagement, the mind searches for something to grasp. Over time, this searching fades. What replaces it is quiet confidence. Not confidence in outcomes, but confidence in awareness. Whatever arises can be met. Whatever passes does not define. This confidence is not optimistic. It is grounded. The observing mind does not seek to wake others. It understands that awareness cannot be transferred. It emerges when conditions allow. Force delays it. Silence supports it. This is why some minds leave the system without announcement. They do not escape upward. They step aside. They stop feeding the loops. They stop identifying with the noise. They stop confusing thought with truth. Nothing collapses, but everything changes. In the final chapter, we will bring this understanding to its conclusion. What it truly means to leave the system, why most never do, and how quiet power expresses itself once observation becomes stable. This is not an ending. It is a resting point. Leaving the system is not an event. It is not a breakthrough moment, a revelation, or a permanent state of bliss. It is a reorientation so subtle that it often goes unnoticed by everyone except the one experiencing it. Nothing outside changes dramatically. The world continues to move, demand, pressure, and distract. What changes is the point of reference. The system loses power the moment the mind no longer takes itself personally. This is the final distinction that determines why some minds never leave, while others quietly step outside. The system is not defeated by resistance. It is rendered irrelevant by disidentification. Control collapses when there is no one inside the mind to control. Most people assume the system is something to escape from, a structure to break, an authority to overthrow, a reality to transcend. This assumption keeps the mind engaged at the level of reaction. It preserves the idea that freedom exists somewhere else, in some future condition. The system survives on this assumption. The observing mind no longer seeks escape. It understands that the system is a pattern of perception, not a location. The moment perception changes, the system has no ground to stand on. It cannot follow awareness into stillness. It cannot operate without identification. This is why the system depends on emotional hooks. Fear keeps the mind forward focused. Desire keeps it chasing. Shame keeps it compliant. Hope keeps it waiting. These are not flaws. They are mechanisms. When they are observed rather than obeyed, they lose their momentum. The final realization is simple, but not easy to live. Nothing needs to be fixed in the world for freedom to exist internally. Freedom is not permission. It is clarity. It is the absence of internal coercion. It is the end of automatic participation. This does not mean withdrawal from life. It means engagement without fusion. The observing mind still feels pressure, but pressure no longer dictates identity. It still encounters injustice, but outrage does not consume attention. It still desires, but desire does not define worth. The system offers stimuli, but the mind decides what enters. This decision is rarely conscious. It is embodied. The nervous system calms because it is no longer constantly interpreting experience as threat or opportunity. The body relaxes into presence. This physiological shift is often the clearest sign that the system has lost its grip. Chronic tension dissolves. Urgency fades. Time feels less compressed. From the outside, this can look like detachment. From the inside, it feels like space. This space is not empty. It is available. It allows thought to arise and pass without consequence. It allows emotion to move without narrative. It allows silence without discomfort. Most minds avoid this space. They fill it immediately with noise, activity, stimulation, or meaning. The system encourages this filling. Silence threatens control because silence reveals the absence of compulsion. In silence, the mind discovers it does not need to react. This discovery is irreversible. Once the mind has experienced non-reactive presence, it cannot fully return to unconsciousness. Even if identification returns temporarily, awareness remains nearby. The loop may resume, but it is no longer seamless. A crack has formed. This crack widens through lived experience, not effort. The observing mind does not practice freedom. It lives from it. Attention naturally returns to awareness, because awareness feels lighter than identification. Over time, this becomes the default state. This is why most minds never leave the system. Not because they are prevented, but because they are distracted. The system does not lock the door. It keeps the mind occupied. Busy minds do not notice their own captivity. Leaving requires noticing. Noticing is quiet. Noticing is slow. Noticing is unremarkable. It does not satisfy the ego. It does not produce stories. It does not elevate identity. It removes the need for identity altogether. This is deeply unsettling to the part of the mind that wants to matter. The observing mind accepts that it does not need to matter. It does not need to be special, right, or seen. It does not need to win. This acceptance is the end of leverage. Without the need to matter, manipulation has nowhere to attach. Power changes form here. It is no longer forceful. It is no longer visible. It is no longer competitive. It is simply unmovable. Unmovable does not mean rigid. It means centered. The observing mind can adapt without losing itself. It can compromise without self-betrayal. It can engage without attachment. This is the quietest form of power. It does not demand recognition. It does not seek followers. It does not announce truth. It lives it. Others may sense it. Some may feel threatened by it. Some may be drawn to it. None of that matters. The observing mind is not trying to change the world. It allows the world to reveal itself. This is why systems eventually fail around such minds. Not immediately, not explosively, but gradually. Influence weakens. Control attempts become obvious. Manipulation loses subtlety. What once worked stops working. The observing mind does not celebrate this. It does not take credit. It simply remains. This remaining is the final act of leaving, not departure, not rebellion, not transcendence. Remaining as awareness while everything else passes. This is the end of the journey Gnostics hinted at, stripped of myth and belief. Not salvation, but clarity. Not escape from reality, but freedom within it. Most minds will never arrive here. They will live and die inside reaction, convinced the system is everywhere but within. This is not a tragedy. It is simply unconsciousness continuing itself. But some minds will notice, and noticing is enough. Once you see the system as a movement of the mind, rather than a structure of the world, you are no longer fully inside it. You may still participate, but you are no longer possessed. This is the quiet ending. No announcement, no awakening story, no final answer. Just awareness, standing where reaction once ruled. And that is why some minds never leave the system. They never stop mistaking themselves for what passes through them. If something shifted while listening, don't explain it. Don't turn it into a belief. Just notice what feels quieter now. If you want to stay in that clarity, without chasing insight or performing awareness, this channel is here. Not to wake you up, but to help you remain awake.